Welcome to Chops and Pops. It is June 28th, 2015, and of all the sights and sounds to be seen and heard, you are here with us. Thank you so much for listening here on our YouTube channel. I am Andy.
And I'm Shane.
And I am Andrew. And with us today, hailing from Bricktown, New Jersey, weighing in at
220 pounds,
at
6'1",
we have with us today
the line Steve Zaff. I think angels just ascended. This is amazing.
The angels are upon us and Chops and Pops.
This is actually the best crowd reaction I've ever gotten.
All right, well today we are going to talk about Jeff Jarrett making his return to TNA, and extra read all about it, Watership Down, mass exodus from TNA. Guys?
What? They hit the iceberg.
It is
They're
happening.
sinking.
Iceberg, straight ahead!
They're losing
The-
Austin Aries, Magnus, James Storm, and Loki.
Wow.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
But those are the two big stories. So let's start with Jeff Jarrett first. Jeff Jarrett returns to Impact Wrestling. How do you feel about it?
I actually watched a little bit of this.
Andy
I
watched
think
I
TNA
don't
for the
really
first
watch TNA that much, and it didn't go very
Same.
well. I was like, I read the article that he returns, and I'm like, watch the clip here. I'm like, okay, go watch the clip. Clicked it. He started talking. I'm like,
He's still Jeff
I
Jarrett.
don't want to listen
Yeah.
to this guy at all.
Here's the
Exactly.
problem is at the end of the day, Jeff Jarrett is still Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
He is.
I think he's a middle-of-the-line guy who really used that company to
Book
try
himself into the main event?
to
It
try to
seems
stand
that way.
himself. The other bad aspect of that is I really wish Karen had never been a part of that interview.
I completely agree because you know what? We can kind of like bag on Jeff Jarrett of like, oh, he's so, but you know what? The guy has what he has. He was the owner of TNA, and that's a special element to it and story in itself. But really, what is Karen Jarrett doing there? She like, I
Karen
get that maybe
Jarrett's-
it's like a partner
Karen
thing
Jarrett's claim
she-
to fame is leaving Kurt Angle for Jeff Jarrett.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
That's
otherwise, she
about it.
has no purpose in the wrestling business.
And you know, I'm not saying that she was wrong for leaving Kurt Angle because he's, you know, just because he's Kurt Angle. By the way, I'll have sex with Kurt Angle.
He's an Olympic champion.
A national hero.
I bumped into him at WrestleCon the year that they were in Secaucus.
And you fell?
No, I almost did. He was he smiled at me, and he was still the most intense man I've ever seen in my life. He smiled, and I thought his eyesight was going to knock me over.
But
That's
yeah.
But I legitimately, I think Karen being out there actually hurt Jeff more than it helped him.
I agree.
What
Um,
happens with Austin?
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but just in speaking on that topic, there was even a point when she was cutting her part of the promo where she told Jeff Jarrett, "Look at me, like look at me when I'm talking," and I'm like, really? How much more can you demasculate this guy? Like,
He's clearly folded his hand, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say my main point of it, what happens to Austin Aries now?
Well, that's kind of the second part was everybody jumping ship. But just talking about Jeff Jarrett returning to Impact Wrestling, he wasn't the only person. There was also Vader, Matt Morgan, and Hernandez. On top of the fact that Jeff Jarrett's return is to not only have him have the King of the Mountain match, which
Right.
is happening like right now, but also to put him in the Hall of Fame. So how do you feel about all that?
I think that it is something he's actually been picturing in his own head for not too short a time. I think he knew that GFW was not going to work, and he knew that well before you and me talked about it, what was going to happen. He needed to make that seed planted in TNA. He's going to be a part of it now in the future, and God knows what they're going to do. But
Oh my God! What if they do an invasion?
Well, that's what's getting talked about. Is that's what's kind of going to be formed from
It's
the
like a
partnership? Is that
GFW
like
GFW
GFW guys
invasion.
come to TNA? How do you guys feel about that invasion angle?
Can I just give you a moan for that one?
yeah,
Can we stop with invasions? Can we
Right.
stop with invasions? Can we stop with stealing and please? And I'm saying that I'm an Ambrose Mark, by the way, if anyone's wondering. Steve
As am I.
Zaff is a Dean Ambrose, John Moxley fan.
Oh yeah.
On the indies, I can't tell you a single move that John Moxley did, but I can tell you that I loved every minute of them.
Right.
With that said, can we stop having invasions and can we stop stealing titles? It was cooler this time than it was with the IC title, but let's stop doing it.
Does the New Japan ROH thing count as an invasion?
No, because that's really just a partnership
Yeah,
between
that's
two
what I thought.
companies, and that's
Yeah.
kind of
working relationship.
yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to transition this, is that, you know what, Jeff Jarrett and TNA opening the doors to each other isn't necessarily a bad thing in the sense that Global Force, their whole premise of being a company was that they wanted to work with every single company in the world, TNA kind of being a sticky situation given the whole history of it all, but like, there's kind of two different discussions in terms of talking about Global Force and TNA working together, and then the
Global
invasion
Force
angle.
invasion.
Yeah,
I feel if it's them working together, I feel if that's the actual fact is Global Force working with everywhere. Obviously not with Vince because he won't.
that's
Yeah,
the
no.
only
The
exception.
exclusive.
He won't do it. He won't do
Right.
it.
But they have a
'Cause
lot
what-
of great relationships
what-
with New Japan, AAA,
he can probably
European
work
countries.
with ROH, things like that. Probably things in Europe. Essentially, that is him recreating the NWA.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I am for this. I
too.
am absolutely for this. I just said to you guys before the show, I am a fan of the territory system.
Mhm.
I feel that the fact that Vince has no competition, because TNA is not competition.
No.
It's leaving lackluster wrestling. TNA is a sinking ship, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
And the problem with TNA, and I said this to a friend of mine the other day, was they didn't jump on what they could do rather than just trying to do what Vince was doing not as well.
Okay. There's a really important point that I wanted to make, and I kind of feel like you're kind of brushing. So kind of elaborate on that because there's something very significant I want to say about that.
Okay, you have guys in TNA. Well, up until recently, you have your Angles, you have your Austin Aries, you have these amazing wrestlers. TNA is obviously the much smaller brand. With that said, you don't have you don't have the as much national worldwide exposure as
The
you do.
resources.
Yeah, but with that said, also you can do storylines that Vince won't do, and it gives you a chance to really reach out and do off the wall storylines sometimes, not just recycling storylines. Let's face it, Aces and Eights was as cool as it made Bully Ray out to be, and it showed that he could carry a company, a dying company at that, but he carried the company, and he was the most interesting thing on the segments usually. I think you can do storylines and matches. You can focus on wrestling. I know that's a taboo term in today's age.
industry.
I get it, but Stone Cold said it on his podcast. He's a wrestler. I'm a wrestler. At the end of the day, I tell my story in a 16 by 16, 18 by 18, or 20 by 20 ring. That's where my book is. I'm not a writer. I'm not a movie star. I'm a wrestler. That's what I do.
Well said.
I even feel that for the guys that are branching off, you look at a guy like The Miz. I think The Miz might be more. I think Miz kind of realized he might be more suited for television. But John Cena, for all the people that knock him, John Cena's a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think he knows where his bread and butter is, and I think he knows it's in that ring.
He's created such a niche for himself, though.
You know what? And I'm never going to knock anyone for their opinion on a certain character or a certain worker. That's your right, and that is the great thing about this business is that you can have that opinion.
Right.
But at least Cena knows where his home is. And I truly believe he loves the business. I would never ever question that. I think he loves what he does.
See, that's different than where I was thinking you were going to go with it, because here's how I think, and believe me, I think tons of people have their own perspective of how TNA messed everything up. But
I mean, there's a lot of ways they messed it up.
But see, what they're kind of evolving to now is, I think, what they should have been from the beginning,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't have had as many problems as they have now.
Agreed.
Right.
In that people praise TV shows like Lucha Underground, rightfully so, because it's an amazing show, but it's only a television show in the sense that they don't run house shows. They don't really worry about pay-per-views, even if they are building up to one big event for the year. Like, they have nothing to worry about except for a television show. I feel like if TNA would have done that from the beginning,
Yeah.
not have ever worried about running house shows and putting themselves in the hole financially for running those house shows, and maybe didn't worry about trying to put on 12 pay-per-views. See, I thought that's where you were going when you were saying they were trying to do
I think
what
the
the
12
WWE
pay-per-views
did.
was an issue. I do agree with that. House shows, I agree with. I think they expanded too quickly.
Yeah, and too much. Like,
I-
it was too unnecessary. That I mean, like, people
I-
rip them
I
apart
think-
for having like low attendance, and it's like, well, maybe they shouldn't have just done that
well,
in general, because
another
like,
problem, at least in the last year, was they ran New York for a very long time.
mhm.
They ran New York for several weeks. Like they did more than one television show from New York.
the
And
Hammerstein Ballroom
the
stuff,
Hammerstein
yeah.
Ballroom. The problem with running New York, and even I believe if you really look, Vince will admit to this. New York taxes are very high, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
hard for wrestling promotions to run in New York, especially the city.
Plus, Hammerstein Ballroom bumped up their rent. Supposedly, is what I
Yes.
heard. Is that they're
And-
charging people more to
And
run
it's
events
and it's
there.
it's very hard to make money running in New York, anywhere in New York, at least anywhere in the city. I don't know if it's necessarily a state thing, but running in Manhattan anywhere or any of the 5 boroughs is a rough thing to do. A lot of indie, if you look, most indie promotions won't do it. There's not a lot of indie shows in New York City anymore. They used to run Brooklyn all the time. They used to run the Bronx. They don't do it anymore.
Evolve's been pushed out of there a little bit
yeah,
recently. They've had to
New
move
York
around.
Wrestling Connection used to run all throughout New York State, all throughout the state of New York. At least, I'm sorry, I said New York State. That would be more northern New York.
Right.
But the actual state of New York, they would run the city. They would run the state. They would run everywhere, and they don't even run New York. They don't even run the city anymore. And they've been around forever.
What does that say about TNA's financial or marketing guys that they're saying we understand all of that, but we're still potentially making more money here than say in the South or other places that they go to?
No matter what, you're going to be able to charge more in the North. We pay more for everything up here.
It's true.
That's one way to look at it. But the other way is TNA.
It's also attention, like the idea
It's
of
attention
the
up
wrestling
north. You
world,
get-
like
well,
New York City is a
you
hot
get, you get
spot.
the attention in New York City, and I do agree with this. The problem is when I watch TNA shows and when I watch the ones from Hammerstein, I felt like I was just watching an indie show.
Right, or it could have been anywhere else.
Yeah,
Like
it
there
could've-
wasn't anything special that was being brought to
One
it.
of the biggest issues with Hammerstein, and I used to say this about one of the buildings I used to help when I worked with New Moon Rising Wrestling down in South Jersey. We had said this, we were going to change this up, and we just never got a chance to, is because all the fans were in flat attendance. There's no bleachers or anything. There was no rising to it. You had the floor, which was flat, and they had 20 or 25 rows of just flat people sitting behind themselves, and then you had the next tier, and then the next tier, and those people kind of look down. Well, you're getting a lesser show then, because the guy in the 20th row
Can't see crap.
can't see a damn thing. So when Low-Key is locking in the dragon clutch on the guy in New York, and the guy in the 20th row can't see the facial expression, you're not getting the effect. You're not.
That was actually a problem I think I mentioned last week to you about Best in the World.
Yeah.
Is that people were saying that at Terminal 5,
If you couldn't sit
If
at
you
the
didn't-
rail.
if you didn't get on the rail of the balcony, you couldn't see
That-
anything.
that-
I
that's
agree
what I'm saying.
watching
That's
that
New York
pay-per-view.
City.
Yeah.
Seeing things like that, that's, let's face it, wrestling is a visual business, and if you can't see what's going on, what am I paying to watch?
Right. And actually, the whole point I was making before about, the house shows and all that, something kind of dawned on me this past week, and it's not even necessarily just from Best in the World. It's more that TNA, toning back down to just being a television show now, and the idea of your company branching out into doing house show touring and all that, it kind of dawned on me. Ring of Honor is officially the number 2 promotion in America right now. Like,
That is true.
What?
it didn't even kind of.
They
I didn't really
really
have that realization because TNA was always seen as number 2, and I think that's kind of what ruined them as a company, is that when they were seen as number 2, they thought they had to compete with WWE in terms of not only the touring of the house shows, but also in terms of trying to do that whole Monday Night War thing that they tried to rejuvenate, and that was a huge failure that cost them a lot of money. And Ring of Honor now is not only a television show, not only running pay-per-views, but they also have more success in terms of running the house shows. So nobody's kind of really recognized it, but Ring of Honor is number 2 behind WWE.
I will actually agree with this, but one of we're going off on a tangent on TNA's mistakes. I've said this to Andrew. One of their major mistakes was they were trying to sign Paul Heyman at one point as a head writer.
Right.
I remember that.
I've said this many times, and Paul Heyman literally said to them, "You're going to pay me a lot of money to do this, and you're going to fire me a week into this because of how I'm going to run your business."
Well, he said he wanted full control or no deal whatsoever, and that's what ended the deal.
He wanted full control or no deal whatsoever, and they were about to give it to him, and until he said, "Listen, maybe you should hear me out before you just give it to me." And I appreciate him for saying that.
It's Heyman.
I think Paul Heyman is a genius as far as this business goes.
He is.
He foresaw the demise of WCW.
I
Years before it
Yeah.
happened.
I said this with I said this to Andrew. I think him, Cornette, guys like this are geniuses in this business.
I'm glad you're a Cornette guy. I'm
Me
a
too.
Cornette guy.
Me too. Let's hear it for Jim Cornette.
Let's hear it for Jim Cornette. But Heyman, when they asked him to become basically lead writer or lead storyline guy, was like, well, here's the problem is you're going to put me in charge, and the first thing I'm going to do is fire Hulk Hogan. The second thing I'm going to do is fire Ric Flair, and not out of disrespect for Ric Flair because, let's face it, I am a Ric Flair guy. People are Paul Heyman guys. Paul Heyman is a Ric Flair guy. But the whole point of TNA was supposed to be wrestling and youth-orientated, and he was going to do what he should have done. Promote guys like AJ Styles, promote guys like Frankie Kazarian, promote guys like Christopher Daniels. Though Daniels, when TNA started, was in his 30s. Jerry Lynn and Christopher Daniels were both in their mid-30s when TNA was finally catching its run. People don't realize that Daniels is in his 40s because he's Christopher Daniels,
Right.
and he's ageless. Basically, he's timeless.
It's so painful to hear that that's what they were supposed to do.
Well, one of the things that I heard they were supposed to do was this was around 2010, right when Hulk Hogan and Bischoff took over
Right,
with bringing
right.
in Flair. One of the things Heyman wanted to do was take one of the things TNA was doing right, which was that Best of 5 series that Beer Money had with Motor City Machine Guns.
Which was amazing, by the way.
It was.
It might have given me a hard on. I don't mean to offend anybody, but that actually proved to me why I love tag team wrestling so much.
And I agree. And Heyman wanted to put that in the main event. He said, you had something that great going on. That should be closing the show. That should be what you're building your company around. And they didn't want to take the risk on, 1, the young guys, which they should have been doing, and 2, tag team wrestling. And just stupid little things like that getting in the way of something that would have made everybody go like, oh, did you see TNA? They had this amazing.
TNA at the highest point was. The funny thing is everyone always brings up the X Division. Well, I mean, realistically, let's face it. WCW is doing the same thing 10 years before that with the Cruiserweight division. You can cut your losses by saying, well, there were no weight limits. Okay, yeah, whatever. It was still the Cruiserweight division, just a different version of this. With that said, TNA's tag team division was awesome at one point. If you look at the Motor City Machine Guns, which I am a Saban mark. I am a huge Alex Shelley mark. I think Alex Shelley.
Seems to be a recurring theme with the guests that we have on the show. Everybody loves Alex Shelley.
I love Alex Shelley. If you watch early Alex Shelley before he started flying as much, actually, because there was a while where Shelley didn't really fly too much. And you watch him do that European style, just the plain chaining and just pure wrestling. Some of the stuff he comes up with, I remember watching a match. He was in an X Division title match or a number 1 contendership for an X Division title match or something to that effect. Years ago, this was when TNA was first starting to get real footing, and it was this weird thing where he chained and swung the guy around and eventually ended up into a vertical suplex. And I literally sat there and and as a worker myself, I watched it so many times that I had to incorporate it into a match because it was that good. It's like we said this in part 1 of this. It was like watching a Ricky Steamboat arm drag. That's how good the match. That's how good the move was. That I had to do it.
Okay, so the second part of that story we might have touched on, but just so we close it out,
Everyone jumping ship.
So part 1 was how bad they are.
Yeah,
Part one
basically.
is how bad they are.
But that's what affects part 2 is like, okay, now we've established how bad they are. Now
everyone
we
is
understand why everyone's leaving.
and it's not even so much. And it's funny because to the professionalism of the people who are leaving, they're jumping ship in the sense that they're not re-signing.
Right.
I feel like we need to say that too. It's not that these guys that are talking about that aren't coming back, they're jumping ship, but they're not just.
They're just giving themselves freedom.
They're not asking for their release. They're not doing anything necessarily wrong by the company itself. They're actually just not re-signing.
Right.
It's called a good career move.
Right.
It is a good career move. You're not burning bridges, and I kind of respect them for doing that. It might just be because, again, it's Austin Aries, and I love him. But
see, here's the thing. With ripping them apart, I do have to acknowledge this. And you know what? There's a lot of things they could do right, and there's a lot of things that they could do wrong. But one story that came out, because we've talked about before with the rumors that have come out before that they weren't paying people on time. Here's the major thing that came out from this past week's taping, is that for the production crew, they actually told them that they just flat out said they weren't going to hide anything, that they flat out said that they weren't going to pay them till the middle of July.
Jeez.
And if you didn't like it, shake their hand and leave out the door. So, I don't know, we could rip them apart in terms of booking, in terms of roster, in terms of them as a company, but when your boss is basically telling you, suck it up, we're not going to pay you for like a good month, and either deal with it or leave.
No matter
I
what
think
job you're
that's,
in.
Yeah, that's what I
that
mean.
kinda-
Is
that kinda just
despite
sucks.
wrestling, that's a whole different conversation in itself. Of like, what kind of
disrespect.
company is this?
Right.
You know?
well, I had heard rumors that I've heard rumors rampant of them not paying, and this is years now. And not paying not necessarily just not paying for paying checks, not paying paychecks, not paying for medical bills. That's always been a big rumor with them.
Well, the Jesse Sorensen thing was
Jesse
pretty
Sorensen,
terrible.
Zima Ion.
That one kind of hits me hard because that's where I'm sure there's a lot of injuries that wrestlers deal with, and we sometimes aren't even aware of all of it. But when a man is basically paralyzed and you fire him, that goes beyond my fandom as a wrestling fan. Like, that goes beyond it, and that
Yeah.
just
The
from
funny
a
thing
human
is
being
you
perspective, that's
look,
just awful.
You look at this from a human being perspective. You look at that Jesse Sorensen got fired while he was basically paralyzed. You look at the flip side of that coin, and I've heard Vince McMahon called a monster. These words have been said. I've heard it amongst fans. I've heard it amongst other workers.
But
Vince
then
McMahon
there's
is
draws. And
Vince McMahon
yeah.
is a monster. Well, Vince McMahon, when Darren Drozdov got paralyzed, made sure that his house was handicap ready, and kept him on roster for years.
to this day, I think he's still on payroll.
I think
from what I've heard.
I think he is still helping out the family
Right.
at the very least. He kept him on, even on a blog spot. And Darren Drozdov was a very smart guy. He knew he couldn't perform in the ring, so he gave his insight, and his insight was very intelligent. Surprisingly, for a guy named Puke. But Vince does certain things where you question whether or not there's a better humanitarian in the world. And I think some of the things where he gets called a monster is, and maybe I'm being a naive optimist here, but I think some of the things that people call him a monster for, he's a shrewd businessman.
That's what I was just going to say. Is there a difference between being a good human and a good PR person, a good businessman?
Greed is good.
That's what I'm saying. Is you hear some of the stuff. I always joke that Vince is the smartest guy on the planet for doing this. Wrestlers, your contract, you're really a subcontractor. When you work for Vince, you're a subcontractor. You get paid like if you. I did flooring for years and years with my father, and they would. And you subcontract for Home Depot. You don't work for Home Depot. You get paid a check by Home Depot, and you're an LLC, and you pay your taxes at the end of the year. That's every wrestler.
Mhm.
That's
why
genius.
it's a whole different conversation. But that's why Punk was the only person to kind of have the smarts to go, no, I'm going home.
Yeah.
This isn't really what you think it is.
And,
I'm done.
Can talk about that all night.
And funny thing is you say it like that, but one of the people who Punk had a lot of tension with, I'll say tension, not necessarily heat, but tension with, Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Kevin Nash kind of brought it to the light at one point during various interviews. He was talking about headlining with Shawn Michaels and things to that effect. He goes, and it's funny because me and Shawn are best friends, and at the end of the day, we want each other to succeed, but I think he was like Big Rig LLC or something like that for Diesel, and Shawn was Hickenbottom LLC. You're still an LLC. You're a limited liability company. You're taking care of your own taxes, and you're taking care of your own family, and realistically, you're taking care of your own medical bills at the end of your run. And that's something. The funny thing is of all people to jump on this, and he was the guy that I said the wrestling world, the business would need. Everyone who ever talked about there being a wrestling union, it's never going to happen. By the way, if anyone's wondering, there will never be a wrestling union. It's kind of like
Vince is laughing at that idea.
yeah. But there is such a thing called the Stuntman Union, and Hulk Hogan, which is the guy who I said would have to be the guy that did it,
Right.
for a little while was trying to get wrestlers involved in the Stuntman Union. It's a little known fact, but that's one of those things that you need to realize. Wrestlers don't get benefits. They don't get
Right.
the union. You beat the hell out of yourself, man. I have the spine of a 60-year-old man. I'm 33 years old.
Right.
My chiropractor literally looked at me and looked at my X-rays and said, "Don't you want to walk?" And I said, "I'd rather wrestle."
Yeah.
It's a sick way to look at things, but I would rather get in front of a crowd and wrestle than walk when I'm 55. But we will get back on subject because I know I went on a tangent there, so I apologize.
Fair enough.
I mean, so basically, it's just basically where things stand. Jeff Jarrett surprised the wrestling world, decided to work with Impact Wrestling again, and
As far as the people who are released, does
Yeah.
anyone have any opinions on who will end up where?
well, supposedly Magnus is already going to go to Global Force. That's
He is gonna
that's
go. That
something
makes
that's come
sense.
out. Austin Aries, I don't know for sure. I thought when he left Ring of Honor that he could have burned a bridge, but I could be completely wrong about that.
But do you really not let a guy like Austin
Yeah,
Aries
that's
back?
what I
think
mean.
he's
Is
a-
I
yeah.
think he could totally go back to Ring of Honor. James Storm, nothing's come out, but I would assume he'd go to Global Force on top of appearing for indies everywhere.
James Storm, I think, gets a little underrated sometimes.
Yeah.
I could see James Storm working for WWE.
Yeah,
I think
it's a little late in his career, but I don't
yeah,
see
but
him not
he's
being
big enough
able.
and he's athletic enough.
right.
But he can talk.
And he's a great storyteller in the
He
talking.
talks.
And, yeah.
I thought the Revolution storyline or whatever it was called.
Right.
I thought that was actually a really good storyline. And then
He turned chicken crap into chicken soup. Is that
Chicken
how to
salad.
say? Is salad.
salad.
Yeah, I knew there was a saying like that.
I think that was actually a very good storyline. I hated the Magnus storyline with Mickey James.
Yeah,
But his part in it was very good.
he made it work when it
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have.
And I think he's a really good babyface at the same time. I think he plays the opposite. And Austin Aries, there is also a rumor that it's a very, very thin rumor, by the way, that with the Samoa Joe thing and Kevin Owens being there,
Oh no.
maybe going to NXT.
I could see that.
Now, here's the thing: is Austin Aries going to NXT? I just want to ask you guys: could you see a better match than like Austin Aries Finn Balor?
Right.
That is every bit the match that Finn Balor Adrian Neville was, and I think it might be better.
Here's the big question about that. Would he be Austin Aries, or would he be insert name here?
That's what's interesting with Samoa Joe. Is
we-
Samoa Joe was
we
the guy
had-
that kind of
I had
revolutionized
said that me and my friends had made that joke for a while too about Samoa Joe was, well, when they repackage him, and by repackage I mean just change his name, what's he going to be called? So we came up with Tahiti Fred and Hawaiian Bill, and
I like Hawaiian Bill.
yeah,
That-
it was
that
one of
worked.
those. It was like South Pacific Matt and like we would tell little stories like this. It's like, oh, so when South Pacific Matt comes in and feuds with Kevin Owens, we know what'll happen. And
Umaga Jr.
yeah. Oh God, please please don't say that, because
He's the only guy that's Samoan that is not part
From
of
the
that
bloodline.
long Samoan family tree.
Right.
It is weird.
Well, you know what's funny is they even include in that bloodline, or they include as almost like an honorary member of the family, Snuka. And
Right,
he's of no
Snuka.
relation whatsoever.
Tamina Snuka, Roman Reigns, The Rock, the Wild Samoans, like every single
You
person.
know, the you
But
know,
Samoa Joe's not part of it.
Rikishi,
Right.
You know,
The Usos.
the
like,
Usos.
It's crazy. But what about Low-Key, though, in terms of where he could pop up? Because
I
personally,
think Low-Key retires.
I mean, he's getting to that point.
He was retired already.
Yeah.
And and a couple places asked him to come back, and I think he got bit with the bug again. I really think that's what it was. I think he was getting good matches. I think he was excited about working with newer guys that were giving him good matches.
Yeah.
And again, I've always spoke very highly of Low-Key, Caval, whatever you want to call him.
Senshi. I think was one of them.
Senshi. Low-Key has always been what I've called him. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great person. I think he is an athletic miracle as far as things go. I've watched him hours before shows at times where he's just doing Hindu squats after Hindu squats after Hindu squats, and I'm watching him getting tired.
Unreal.
It's one of those, like, he's literally spending there's 4 hours before the show, and he spent an hour doing Hindu squats just to warm up. That was his warm up. You know, Magnus, again, I said this to you guys before, Magnus has a look about him, and I think if they can maybe put some pressure on him, maybe grind the coal, find out if he's going to be dust or diamond.
The diamond.
You know, not to use the cliched line, but I think I think he could. Again, he's one of those guys that's big enough, and he's got the look. I could see Vince wanting him too.
He's one of those guys. It kind of fits along with everything you just said. Like, if he had the right teachers, maybe he could get to that point.
Again,
because the look was always there. It's just more of like his in-ring stuff never got
and
there.
Sorry for bringing it up like this, but unfortunately, the thing that would be missing would, if you brought Magnus in, the guy that he would need, I'm sorry, would be Dusty.
Mm.
If you put Dusty in charge of his character, you put Dusty and Regal in charge of Magnus's character.
Yeah.
I see that being a world champion at the end of the day, and not just the way they did in TNA, not just pushing them down, not just shoving them down people's throats a little bit, and making
it work.
Yeah, not just making what they had work, actually working.
Making a star out of him.
You know, he's got the look, he's got the athletic ability. I think he's got that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So, Andy, do we have any Americana this week, or should we
we
start
do.
chopping? Okay.
The
all right.
week of July
actually.
4th.
Yeah,
I
things
mean,
actually
July
happened.
4th is next weekend. I think this is.
Well, there'll be a special edition of that next week.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
yes.
But what do you
But
have
this
for
is
us
actually
this
a pretty
week?
big week for America. Oh my.
This is going to be good.
Should have put my hand over my heart.
Look over there on the horizon. Is that a Confederate flag? Why no, it is not a Confederate flag. It's a rainbow flag. How about that? It's happening. People leaving Yahoo. Yahoo says, here's how you leave. Arnold shows support. People say, I'm gonna unfollow you. He says, hasta la vista. It is here, folks. The revolution has begun. We are one step closer to equality. Let's keep this momentum going and make this world a greater place for us here in this grand old US of A. With 4th of July coming up on the horizon, let's all take a moment to take a sip of some brew and do the right thing and be excellent to each other. It truly is a party in this US of A.
Yes. Big win for the nation.
It's true. I actually found out via Facebook that a lot of my friends were
Changing their profile pictures.
not changing their profile pictures, but were of that persuasion.
Oh.
And I did not know that. So, you know what? Good for them.
Yeah, right?
You know what? I didn't
Worst gaydar ever.
I didn't realize that they were like that, but you know what? I'm glad that they can be more open and out with it now.
It's about time.
It
That's
is.
all I could say.
It really is.
I mean, realistically, this is either gonna make me sound like a prick or most open-minded person here, but I just didn't care either way. If you were one way or another, let the people do what they want.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I want to take this time in the podcast to tell you something, Andy.
Uh-oh.
oh boy.
It's time for CHOPS of the
Oh.
week.
Is it already?
Oh, did you think that was going somewhere else?
I thought this was
Oh.
getting way
What a
more serious.
swerve!
Oh.
What a
Oh my
swerve.
God!
A
Vince
swerve?
Russo swerve.
Hold up. Hold up right there and now.
It's time for some meat and some potatoes.
Big man, big chop.
Big hand, big chat.
Did I scare you?
I did. I was like, what's going on? What happened? Who do you know? What did they do?
I thought it was part of history. Actually,
Yeah, that would have been
Sorry
awesome.
to let you down.
I thought we were gonna bringing in a much bigger name than me in here all of a sudden, like
To witness that.
Door
like,
opens,
I
a big
mean,
light
not,
shines
not,
through.
not to go by his shirt, but I really thought like Jericho was gonna walk through the front
Yeah.
door, and I was gonna have to leave.
He's
Ayatollah
actually
of rock and
waiting in the
roll.
closet. We only let him out when. Get it? Like
Oh.
trapped in the
Oh
closet.
my.
I see what you did there.
Well, you know what? I'm
I'm-
actually going to cut the line and go first because mine not only has to do with Chris Jericho, but also has to do with America. So it just kind of transitions.
Here we go.
My chop of the week is going to the potential that they are possibly cutting Chris Jericho's match from the July 4th special on the network.
Boo.
I'm crushed. I'm devastated, not only being a Chris Jericho fan, but it was the one match I was looking forward to the most for the whole purpose of this July 4th special. It breaks my heart. I hope it's not true. I hope maybe it was just a mistake when they reshuffled the card, but it looks like that match won't be airing.
I thought this was America.
Yeah, really. Come on now. But that's my chop of the week, is going to whoever made the decision to cut that from the broadcast.
I agree, man. What were they? Come on. What match is going to beat that? I mean, the lowest.
Speaking of that, my chop about Brock Lesnar getting beaten up. What the ever living fuck is that?
Yes. Thank you, Andy.
I mean,
I
I
have a-
actually wrote down. I thought this is actually much funnier when I just said. I said, "How in the all that is loving world of Shrek is that a great thing?" Interesting.
It was a lot funnier when you were typing it.
Yeah. Brock, murder, death, kills people. That's what he does. Like he kills. Like
Right.
walks in the ring. F5.
I mean,
it's over.
I mean,
he broke
realis-
3 of Jamie
I
Noble's
was gonna say
ribs.
realistically,
Broke
he
his
did
ribs.
murder, death, kill Jamie Noble.
He did.
This, you know what?
Ugh.
I may be the only one that this small, stupid thing bothers, but watching this past Raw, I actually noticed that Noble wasn't freaking in the ring during that ambush, and I was like, with 3 people there, it still doesn't seem believable. I was
No.
like, this is insane for us to think that this man who swallowed John Cena and like who could like
Who ended the
Spit
Undertaker's
out the
streak?
bones.
And
Yes.
the streak.
he could look at me and I'd die 3 times. That 3 people are going to beat him up. Jesus.
And I always like to bring up, he almost killed CM Punk in Hell in a Hell.
Oh, no, SummerSlam.
SummerSlam.
Yeah,
That was
that was brutal.
brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. Like CM Punk kept getting up, and I just kept thinking, like, leave him alone. He's already dead.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's
That's chop
Brock
worthy.
Lesnar should be destroying people,
He's-
not
yeah.
I
He's-
agree.
Like,
Now,
You know, unless the entire authority, and I mean
Everybody.
Stephanie and Triple H
Yeah.
and the sledgehammer.
And
Yeah,
you
with
bring
the
back you bring Big Show back because he's part of the authority, even though he doesn't come out anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like just bring every heel out
yeah.
to try to stop
Everyone.
Lesnar.
Oh my
Right.
God! What if Stephanie McMahon got F5'd?
Again,
Oh.
it
Imagine.
probably happened.
Can you imagine?
I just got hard from you
yeah, me
saying
too.
that.
Me too.
I don't know if it's from her chest bouncing or from the actual act of her getting F5, but
We have her fitness DVD here, and
yeah, I'm
I,
sure
Let's
you-
bring
I'm-
it back to wrestling
I'm
really
sure
quickly.
you're using it to work out.
I actually just watched it, and it was hilarious.
Okay.
Have you seen the Scott Steiner workout video?
No, but I think
Oh,
I
then
need
you know
to.
nothing about hilarity.
Is he
I'm
just
tired. You get no sippy.
No,
Fat ass.
he keeps telling you to force the blood, and it's just
My chop of the week. Not
Chop.
sure I could follow
Andrew's
that
chop.
follow up. I'm probably gonna get some heel heat for this, but mine's about Kevin Owens. My chop is, what's going on with Kevin Owens? Who's he feuding with? I have 4 good answers for that, and that's my chop. Why do I have 4 good answers?
Why do you have 4 good answers?
Is it Cena?
Is it?
Is it Balor? Is it Samoa Joe? Is it Hideo Itami? Is it the entire announcing crew of NXT? Who is this man? Who is he
but
fighting?
I love it when he fucks with Byron Saxton. That's like the best part.
Yeah,
He's like,
it's literally like
"Hey."
messing with your little brother.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's great.
I do. All right. I don't think he's feuding with Hideo Itami. I think that was. I think that's more one of those. He's getting. I do agree with what he said. I don't think he attacked him. I think it's going to be a babyface turning heel thing, as far as who Hideo got attacked by. As much as this pains me to say, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Balor. He is feuding with Balor, obviously. He is feuding with Joe, and he is feuding with Cena. Everything that he does on NXT doesn't affect what he does on the main roster, though.
But how am I supposed to believe that?
Well, because he's wearing different clothes.
And the sad thing is, you're actually right.
That works.
Obviously. But realistically, it's bad that he's already feuding with Samoa Joe because it takes away from Finn Balor's appeal, and there should never be a thing where your number 1 contender is being taken away from you. You take away your big fight feel, especially since their live event in Japan is his title match, which, in my opinion, I think Finn might take just because I think they might give the U.S. title to Owens.
We all do. Yeah.
It just seems to make sense. I think if they have him lose to Cena, or I think if they have him lose, if they go to a Broadway or have him win, it's different. But if they have Owens lose to Cena at this point, it kills the push that they've already given.
Yeah. So that's my chop. Now, do we have a special guest chop?
My special guest chop. I had some time to think about this, and after hearing them, Tough Enough.
Tough enough.
Hasn't been brought up yet.
The Tough Enough competition special, specifically. This might be a chop towards the WWE in general. This could be a chop for the fact that I felt like it was a waste of time. After watching some of it and seeing guys who had no idea about the product, and they got a spot. That's a shot at WWE, but it's also a shot at the sense that I know a lot of guys that send tapes in, myself included. I will admit to it. I'll be the guy that says it. I sent a tape in, or a video, whatever you want to say. And a lot of these guys are guys who are also 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year guys that, you know, even they're still younger. They've been wrestling since they were 16, 17 years old, and these were spots that they could have gotten.
Yeah.
And a guy who had no knowledge of the company, no knowledge of the product, no knowledge of anything, get your top 40 spot. And I'm not saying that these guys were going to make it past to the 13 round, but just being on that spot gives you
And he didn't even
noticeability.
have a good look. Like, he's
No.
not even a guy where you go like, oh well, I get it.
He
Like,
was
looked like
a
nothing.
pretty guy that was probably in good shape, and that was about it. He didn't have much to say. Like, it wasn't like he walked out there and he was like, "Oh, I don't know about your company, but I have all of this that goes on with me."
Right.
Like, it wasn't an
Right.
interesting story.
He
was
didn't
just,
have a backstory.
He was a stripper in Las Vegas, from what I understood. You know what?
He was Channing Tatum, damn it.
I mean, if you're gonna pull a stripper from Las Vegas, just take Kenny King.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
Just take Kenny King. At least you know he can effing
and he
work.
tried for Tough Enough.
He
for
wasn't
1 year.
Tough Enough.
Yeah.
He just didn't make the win. You know, and even like the twins that came in, you know, when
Nothing gets under my skin like those twins. Ooh.
who Booker literally looked at and was like,
What a
"You're-
bunch of chumps.
You want to go hood with me? I was raised in Houston. Like, come on, let's get down to this." And they said to themselves, "Does anyone believe? I don't care if they're 6'7" or not. Does anyone believe that those two guys would beat up anyone?
You know what? I'm in terrible shape, and I feel like I could kick their
Now-
ass. Like,
Now then, this is not my pop, but I will give the devil's advocate side. I marked out for ZZ.
a lot of people like ZZ.
I think he's a genuine dude. I think I think every reason that they gave him his spot, the alternate spot, was everything that what was the right reasonings. I think he's all heart, and I think his heart will explode before he quits,
That's the
which
key.
is exactly what they
Right.
need,
Right.
regardless of how good of a shape in it. But you give him 6 weeks with guys like Billy Gunn and Booker T and Lita, and strength and conditioning coaches at the Performance Center. You know, 6 weeks with guys like that that's like life making.
Oh, yeah. Good, great stuff from our special guest. Let's move to the other side of the coin.
The other side is, could that be a pop?
Did Hulk Hogan just walk in?
That was a lower volume than I'm used to. I liked it.
Oh no, that's the same. It's just,
That still killed my ears.
that's still, it's just your eardrums are gone.
Oh, they're used to it now.
That's the
What
the
people
power of
don't-
hockey fans.
What people didn't realize is Andy actually tore his shirt during that. It was crazy.
I'm telling-
his
for the
awesome JDF shirt, by the way, which I have been marking out for this
Right.
whole time.
Isn't that awesome?
It is badass.
Ah,
Punk's first opponent. It's
no,
gonna be the
It'll never ever happen.
that's never gonna happen.
because Punk keeps ducking.
well.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
I said-
he does, and you know what?
Oh,
I
I'm
hope
sorry.
he fights him, and I hope Jason David Frank just
If
beats
it
his
hap-
ass.
if it
You know what's
happens-
funny is I
Like
said
Punk.
the same thing, and then I hope he grabs the microphone and says, "Remember how you said it's clobbering time? Well, it's morphin' time, bitch."
That's amazing.
Let's go to the pops.
Okay, I'll start on this one. My pop goes to New Day and Bo Dallas for the SmackDown clap video. Just go find it. It's like the best part of SmackDown. This New Day thing is amazing, and then they're doing like the New Day rocks, New Day rocks. And then you hear on the side just like,
He can't do it.
it's
He's falling apart. He's not meant to
if
fit
he
in.
can't clap, he snaps. So put Bo Dallas into the New Day, who pretty much just took his gimmick anyway
Yeah.
and made it work.
So
just
essentially, Bo Dallas is affirmative action.
yes,
I'm sorry.
yes,
Did no one else want to say that?
that's
'Cause-
it. That's it.
That's funny. That goes into one of my chops from a few weeks ago with Bo Dallas not getting anything from the audience when he came out, and
Yeah.
he cut his promo
Well-
that seemed to be weeks before killing it, and now he's. I mean, this may be good for him.
Yeah,
Well,
I
the
hope.
funny thing is this kind of is one of those things that proves that things that work on NXT might not work on the main roster.
Right. Right.
But what people don't realize is Bo Dallas had the chance to really cultivate that Bo Leave gimmick in NXT. He had time. Time is a beautiful thing with wrestling a lot of times, and I actually said I loved Bo Dallas because the whole Bo Leave thing, was, if you watch old NXT, was because the fans were telling him to leave. Bo leave. And he's like, yes, they're telling they want to Bo leave or no Bo no. And they want to know more about Bo or know more Bo is what they were saying. He's like, they want to know more Bo.
And then Daniel Bryan came along and said, "You're being a Bo ner."
Yeah, well, I mean, Dean Ambrose also called Daniel Bryan a turd, so
Whoa,
did.
whoa, we won't mention that. That's two of our favorites.
he's kind of a turd still.
Yo, Mox.
Shane, pop
My pop of the
week.
It's kind of weak in one sense, but it's kind of just a subject in itself is my pop. My pop of the week goes to the element of surprise.
What?
Because this week was filled with nothing but surprises. We got Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett returning to TNA.
Yeah.
We got
Wolf.
Vader, Matt Morgan, and Hernandez also coming back to Impact Wrestling.
Double wolf.
Vader is enough.
We had The Rock surprise everybody. It was either last night or the night before at a WWE
at,
house show in
Boston.
Boston.
In
Yeah.
Boston at the TD Garden.
And then on top of that, on Friday night, we didn't really talk about it yet, and I'll mention it a little bit in the false finish, but PWG held a show where the Young Bucks and Super Dragon both returned.
I saw that.
So literally, this was just the week of surprises, and I enjoyed most of them. I won't say all of them, but most of them.
Did you say Super Dragon?
Super
We
Dragon
did
is
say Super
back.
He did say Super
Not
Dragon.
not only is it Super Dragon, but it's Super Dragon forming the new faction, which Kevin Owens was a part of, called Mount Rushmore. And the new Mount
Andy's
Rushmore
face.
consists of Super Dragon, the Young Bucks, and Roderick Strong.
Roderick?
I'm
yeah,
in.
so it's
I'm in.
greatest
Um,
thing ever.
Can I ask one question though? And this question was posed on Facebook by one of my other wrestling colleagues. If Vader is still in such good shape that he can still put on a match, how come he was wearing workout gear from Walmart?
'Cause he works for
I
TNA.
love Vader too much to comment on that.
I am a Vader mark. I watched Vader versus Dan Moff for JAPW, and it was bully versus bully, and that was where it was at. It was kind of like watching. It'd be like watching a man versus idol, and I love Vader, but we know he has
did
gear.
come out in sweatpants. I do acknowledge
he
that.
came out in workout pants and a tank top, and we all know that he has relatively new gear from the last time he was on WWE when they beat the hell out of Heath Slater, which was only a year or two ago, I think.
It's true. I love the guy too much, though. But basically, my pop of the week goes to the element of surprise that happened everywhere. That was in basically every single wrestling company this week. And, yeah, pop goes to surprises.
Well done. Well done.
How about that? So that
We still have Andrew and my pop.
Yeah, they didn't do their pops.
Andy.
Jumping the gun a little.
And I'm a visitor.
sorry.
And I'm a visitor.
And
My-
he brought beer.
I did bring
know.
beer.
I'm sorry.
My pop of the week. I may be forming a trend here because last week my pop and chop went to ROH. This week is no different. My pop goes to the phenomenal AJ Styles.
I
And
like
the
this
match that he put on with the Young Bucks, I have fallen in deep love. I'm sorry to my girlfriend if she's listening to this. But with the tag team division of ROH, and they put on a match this past week, which had me jumping out of my seat. I was so happy to see it. And I have never seen in my life a triple super kick with the middle kick being a, what was it, a backflip change? Did you watch it? Do you know what?
Which part are you talking about?
The towards the end, towards the go home.
Are you talking about the Meltzer driver?
Was that what it was?
Well, what it is for the Meltzer driver is they basically set them up for a tombstone.
Yes.
But then Nick Jackson, I think it's Nick Jackson, does the front flip to spike the tombstone. But I believe it's before he goes for that front flip, they hit a super kick while he's placed in being held for the tombstone.
I think so.
That's part of the go home.
And usually if it's with AJ, they'll put him into right afterwards. They'll hold him there for the Styles clash.
Yes,
that's
how
how it
they
ended,
finished the
yeah.
match, which is what made me get goosebumps for 5 straight minutes.
Because you're dead after that, by the way.
Right, yeah, no, you don't
you're
survive
dead.
that.
Like, someone carries you out of the ring, and if they don't carry you out of the ring, people are selling it wrong, by the way.
My favorite part, it's different, though, than what you're saying. There was, they had the Bucks on either side and Styles in the middle, and on the outside they gave a super kick to the standing opponent who's dazed, and Styles does this, like, bicycle kick.
He does
The
the Pele
Pele
kick.
kick?
He probably
The Pele
Yeah,
kick.
yeah.
The real Pele kick, by the way. And I'm sorry, that might be a knock towards my boy Finn Balor, but the real Pele kick is from AJ.
My house shook from me jumping from that.
Ring of Honor's been doing some great stuff lately. I
AJ
think so.
AJ Styles has jumped to my top 3 favorite wrestlers that are wrestling right now. He can do no wrong in my
But
book.
see, that's why you have to start watching New Japan because every single guy in that 6-man tag is a New Japan wrestler.
I don't know
Between
why
AJ,
I want to know why he wasn't there to
Young
begin
Bucks,
with.
Okada,
I'm-
Roppongi Vice, that's all New Japan
Yes.
guys.
I'm actually questioning your logic for him not being there to begin with.
I've been limited, man. I don't have a good excuse. I'm a poor boy.
All right, so
Styles Clash for the win. Steve.
my pop. I'm gonna go against Andrew on this one. My pop is for Kevin Owens.
Oh.
No.
For what in particular?
We
right,
talked about
right.
this for the promo on, I believe it was Monday.
Yes.
The French Canadian promo. I said this before. Kevin Owens has successfully done something that pretty much no worker has been able to do in the last 7 or 8 years. He actually made John Cena a full-on babyface.
Agreed. I can't disagree
The
with that.
entire crowd cheered for John Cena, and I'll give John Cena his credit for this too. He followed up perfectly with everything that he did. But the fact of the matter is Kevin Owens said, "I will be the evil foreigner," and spoke in French. And sure enough, leave it to Indiana. Full on Middle America, just
Yeah, really.
just ate it up perfectly.
They really
did,
helped that.
They did exactly what they were supposed to do as a crowd. It's like the Raw after WrestleMania. They did what they were supposed to do as a crowd, and that promo, that segment. I'm sorry, not just Owens, but that segment is my pop for the week.
Oh yeah.
It was good.
Very nice.
Well,
All right.
that's it.
That actually is the end of the show.
Yes, now you can take it home.
So
We need a ref for Andy.
we're gonna give us the 1, 2, 3.
But wait, there's more.
Oh shit.
What? We're
Oh shit. There's more. There's the false finish. What's up?
Okay. Here's
So
what we're
gonna
do.
super do it this time because
Yeah.
last time we went a little out of hand with the too much.
Lightning round. What
Lightning.
we have is 7 headlines. I'm going to read all 7 headlines. You guys pick which topic you want to talk about to close out the show. All right, ready? Topic number 1. I might need your help on pronouncing this, Andy. Or any of you guys might know. I'm not as familiar.
Okay.
Sofia Vergara.
Yeah,
Is that how you
Vergara.
say it?
That's actually
okay.
correct.
The woman from Modern Family?
Yes.
She was ringside for PWG this
I
past
saw that.
Friday. And
Cool.
she was with her husband, which I don't know his name, but
Joe
he's the guy
Manganiello?
yes,
yeah,
from Magic Mike. They were ringside for PWG
I
this week.
prefer to give him credit for How I Met Your Mother, but still.
True Blood.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I didn't even know. I like How I Met Your Mother. Okay.
He's
the
the
bro.
shirtless guy all the time.
the
He's the
bro.
bro guy. Brunch.
But crazy, though. Didn't think she'd be there.
Next.
Other headline, we already kind of talked about. The Rock appears at the WWE House Show. Other headline is July 4th special, which we could talk about the card or the matches, which we kind of talked about Jericho, but we could talk about Balor or Owens. Other topic is Doink's widow sues the WWE. China begs to join the Hall of Fame. Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice's fight. And Nature Boy Buddy Landell passed away this past week. So, what is the topic that you would like to discuss before going home?
With all due respect to the other nature boy, Buddy Landell, and we all know what China's willing to do to get anything nowadays, I have to give my due to
It's butt stuff, by the way. For those of you that don't know.
the July 4th special. The Demon is going to get his belt, and he will arrive in America, in Tokyo.
That might be the greatest.
Shane's having a hard time breathing right now.
What is China not willing to do? So, are we going to talk about that, or are we going to July 4th special?
Anybody else?
I'm okay with. I will give a toss up to either the July 4th special or the Kimbo Ken fight.
Okay, because I was going to say we either had China or Japan to talk about. Which
I mean, I don't want to talk about what China will do to
That's
get
not-
into.
I think Andy's the deciding.
Let's not talk about that. We know what that's
Again,
like.
she was in the fake Avengers.
She was.
the-
She
She
was
was the
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
She was She-Hulk.
was
which
she
makes-
really?
She
I didn't know
was.
that.
Yep.
She was She-Hulk.
She was.
How about that?
How
The
about
future of WWE divas with Sunny and China both doing porn.
I
It
wonder what
doesn't look
Sunny.
good.
I wonder who would Sunny be in like a Triple X parody.
Sunny?
She could be herself. And
She could be herself.
I heard she didn't want to do a wrestling one, but
Back-
let's talk about
Well,
the Tokyo.
that's- yeah, we're
Let's-
talking.
we're doing it again.
Okay, so what do you guys want to say about Tokyo?
I'm super excited to see Brock Lesnar kill Kofi Kingston.
And he might actually do it because, you know, he can't get extradited.
It's a different country.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah, I think he might. I don't know about kill him.
It's
He
gonna
might-
look.
No, he would.
It's
He
gonna
might.
look scary.
He might leave him alive, but he will eat parts of him.
I was going to say, he would tear open his neck and just be like,
Yeah, like you might see Kofi leave with one arm because Brock ate the other one because, well, he didn't eat that day. Jet lag or whatnot.
I mean, no doubt they're going to have the New Day interfere in some way, and they're all going to get
what
eaten.
are they gonna do?
Yeah, but
what's
gonna happen?
Biggie gonna do? Seriously?
Well, with what happened on Raw, and here goes...
Are we talking about in real life or in wrestling worlds?
Wrestling World.
Wrestling worlds, then nothing. Then Big E gets German suplexed over the top rope into the first row.
But with what you were saying earlier, maybe this is where they try and make human again the Beast Incarnate, and where the entire stable
Do
could...
you remember when Brock Lesnar F5'd to Shark in preparation for a SummerSlam? It was just a commercial. He F5'd to Shark, and they're like,
I do
whale,
remember that.
and he was running to go F5 a whale.
I do
did
remember
see
that.
That's one of the best
I
commercials
do remember
ever.
that. Do you also remember when Brock Lesnar shooting star pressed
Yes!
his face
How
onto
could
the
you
mat?
forget?
I saw that. That was intense.
Oh, it's real. It's damn real.
And of all people that got really pissed off about it, it was in fact Billy Kidman.
Right.
Kidman actually got really mad about that. But
He should talk. He's the one who messed up his own shooting star press at a WrestleMania. WrestleMania 20, he almost landed on his head.
So my excitement for the
Tokyo
show is actually the Balor Owens match.
Yeah.
I don't. First of all, that's going to be a hard-hitting match. I think it's going to be a lot of innovative moves on both their parts. Owens even now, and I'm a fan of him. I was a fan of him from Ring of Honor. He hits moves that surprise me now. And Balor seems to bring something new to the table every show too.
He's going to put his whole heart into it with it being in Tokyo.
With it being in Japan.
He's home.
I think Balor's running chop in the corner might be one of the hardest chops I've ever seen in my life, and that's with respect to
Roderick Strong?
Huh?
Roderick Strong?
Roderick Strong, or that Canadian guy. The Canadian guy whose
the
name
anniversary that just passed.
Yeah, the Canadian guy whose
That
name
just
we
happened.
don't say. Or the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair, or Ricky Steamboat. But any of these guys, I think I would put Finn Balor's running chop up there with him. I think the match in general will steal the year.
It very well could.
I think it has the potential at least to be the match that we are talking about. Much as we were talking about Zayn and Cesaro, I think we might be talking about Owens Balor at the end of this year like that.
That's very possible.
All right. Well, you know where I stand with that. The Demon will be arriving.
Not to mention, I love the NXT title belt. I think that is.
Isn't that great?
I think
Isn't
it's
it
one
awesome?
of the coolest looking belts I've ever seen.
I just hope that Balor doesn't like get stuck where like he only wins with the Demon. Like big
I
matches.
see what you mean. Yeah.
You know, like he like because like pretty much once he puts the paint on, he wins the match.
He's unstoppable. Yeah.
So it's like why would you never not put the paint on? Why would you never access the Demon?
Because it only comes out for the biggest.
He does only
tests
use it
of
for
his
the biggest
life.
test. And with that said, it almost bites him in the ass a little bit with certain things. And I said this to.
I'd say it bites him in the chest.
It does bite him in the chest. I see what you did.
See
with
what
that.
I did there? Because it's the mouth is on the.
I get it, Andrew.
Being the writing aspect of what I want, of what I'd love to do with the business, I always love to come up with my own storylines. I'm sure everyone else does too. I had said this to Andrew. The perfect way for a Finn Balor storyline to bring him up to the main roster. By the way, Vince, my email will be on this website if you want to hire me. Is to have Bray Wyatt bring Becky Lynch in as Sister Abigail.
Yeah.
And have her be an Irish nun, an evil Irish nun.
It could work.
Wait, hear me out on this one. She's the satanic Irish nun who raises the demon Balor up from hell.
Imagine that stable.
Okay.
And then eventually Finn.
I'm
turns.
disturbed at how the last couple things you said actually twisted that into it really making sense.
Yeah.
You didn't
It
really
works.
have me with her being Sister Abigail, but then
It works
in
perfect,
a
especially
weird way
with
that
her and
works.
Finn being as close as they are.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's what makes it
actually
believable.
makes it perfect, and then eventually have the human side of Finn kind of win out, and that gives you the babyface
Maybe
aspect.
Becky turns on Bray and like sort of cures him.
That's kind of how I was looking at it too. Or she doesn't cure Bray or doesn't cure Finn, and Finn cures himself in the aspect that he kind of how CM Punk got Festus off drugs.
Right.
Oh, Festus.
Oh, Festus.
Festus was the fake Kane.
Festus.
I found that out via the WWE.
And Brian Lee was the fake Undertaker.
He was the fake Undertaker. And by the way, if anyone has not heard the Cliff Compton Super Domino versus the Great Power Uti with Festus, I believe everyone in the world should listen to that. And I'm totally pushing for Cliff Compton because he's a Monster Factory guy, by the way. But if you hear him yelling about Festus yelling to kick Power Uti in the dick in those exact words, you will laugh for hours. And to this point, I still make the joke: the great power Uti.
Very nice.
Very
Cliff
nice.
Compton's actually a Global Force guy. He's
It
one
makes
of the guys
sense.
doing some
Super
of those shows.
Domino's the man.
Are we all good?
All right.
Yeah.
So this actually is the end. I'm not
For-
gonna do something crazy and
For Raziel.
play a sound effect. So that's
Right.
it for us here at Chops and Pops. I am Andy. You can check me out on social media at YDNAGIACCONE. That's Twitter. I say stuff sometimes. Who knows?
My name's Andrew. Again, I am not going to give you my social media information just yet. Just yet.
His
but if
girlfriend
you
will yell at him.
she, well, yeah. But if you want to reach us, my suggestion is to hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment, subscribe, and just tell all of your friends and family to click. All right? Click. Just click on our name, click on our podcast. That's it.
Obey.
And I'm Shane.
And this is special guest Steve Zaff.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Very,
Steve.
very, very big thanks for you to coming out
Definitely.
for this. It's been
Guys, I
a
had
great night.
I had a great time.
This was awesome.
We had some great beers and
It
had some
was.
good conversation. And I agree with Andrew. Everyone subscribe to this. This is one of the most fun things I've done in this business. So,
Awesome.
so
Nice.
definitely, I love the interview and I love the discussion afterwards.
This is Steve Zaff again, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch him if you want to look up any of his old matches. You can find him wrestling for
Crossroads Wrestling, Monster Factory Wrestling. There's a couple things on YouTube you'll find me on.
Okay, yeah, and if
Very
you're looking
cool.
for him in the future, you want to give any of your info?
You can find me on Facebook, Steve Zaff. I should be on my main pages with that. I think I'm on Twitter still. I think I don't follow up on my Twitter too often. Not believe it or not a lot of beef with the Steve Zaff. Yes, I spoke about myself in the third person. I apologize. You can probably find me on both. Instagram, I believe I'm Steve Shosh. So you can find me on all that stuff.
Well, it's been great, Steve. Thank you for coming around.
Thank you very much.
Hope to have you back
Appreciate that.
sometime.
I hope to be back. I really enjoyed this.
And with that being said, Andy, take it away.
That's it for Chops and Pops. So please, have fun. Take it easy. Do stuff. Don't play in traffic. Chops and Pops. Subscribe.
Keep it right, keep it tight.